happy about the work of the appointment committee so far? I mean, let's talk about what has been happening. Honorable Afenyo Markin of the minority, the MPP, who seems to have a golden book of questions for each and every nominee. Some of them, he says, they know him from parliament and of good behavior. So they let them just go, which, I mean, you might have seen on social media, how people are acting. So you mean to tell me that our Greater Accra Minister has no question to answer, or can't tell us what exactly her plans are for the region and all that? How would you characterize the work of the appointment committee so far? I mean, let's put together the chaos, the questions, the back and forth and all that.
You must understand the structure of things. What is the structure? The structure is that the same people were sold a manifesto by somebody called John Dramani Mahama. That if you vote me into office, I will implement a 24-hour economy. I will improve access to healthcare. I will set up a huge infrastructure fund and do a big push for infrastructure. I will set up a women's development bank that will make money available to women entrepreneurs and move them from kete situation to real entrepreneurs. That's the manifesto that was sold to the same Ghanaians, and they bought into that manifesto. And then, by electing him, you give him the power to appoint people to assist him. Okay?
The promise he
has made to you, based on which you have committed to you voted for him, and then he's now committed to those promises and has to implement them. Now, by virtue of having elected him, he's supposed to appoint people to assist him. You see, the Constitution has a minimum bar for who can be a minister. It is there. It is there. This is the minimum bar. Now, anybody who is a member of parliament is constitutionally qualified to be a minister. Constitutionally. Once you meet the criteria and qualification of a member of parliament, you also meet the criteria and qualification of a minister of state. Whatever is there is an add-on. Are you getting the situation? So once the person stood for elections and then you voted the person, she came and she's a member of parliament, then she's qualified to be a regional minister. And so if the president nominates her, she meets the minimum requirement. What you are normally doing, adverting, is to find out whether there's nothing hidden that triggers a disqualification. And nobody has come to say she's done something that triggers a disqualification. Nobody has mounted a challenge. The rest is just you being interested in whether the person's English is good, whether the person fits your own view of who your minister should be. You get a situation. But those are very, very subjective matters. The president, in his wisdom, feels that the person is qualified and the person has met the minimum constitutional requirements. He jumps over that bar. The rest is just we probing and trying to find out, checking the person's confidence levels, checking the person's appreciation of the promises that the president made. So when the original minister, okay, the president said, okay, the cleanest cities and etc., housing, infrastructure, how will you assist? So those are the questions.
Forgive me to come in this way, but wouldn't it be good for Ghanaians as we are, I mean, to listen to what exactly her support, like you mentioned, to the president would be or should be, rather than just saying we know it from parliament. I mean, I don't think everybody in the country knows who really she is, and would have loved to hear something from her, rather than just clear because she sits in the house with her and know who she is and what she does.
Well, I mean, you know, when you are considering people for jobs, you also sometimes consider highly the opinion of referees. So consider her colleagues in parliament as referees who have worked with her, who have worked with her for years and believe that she is qualified. And the same thing. For instance, if Haruna Idrisu had appeared before us and we had said, oh, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, please, it's okay, you get up and go. We approve. Would you have been asking the same questions? You understand me? Because people work with people and then they get to know them and then they conclude that they don't want to waste their time asking them questions. See, when you observe the pattern, of vetting, there are political targets. There are political targets. And then there are opportunities you give to people to project themselves. Now, all the nominees who were subjected to extensive vetting and scrutiny by the minority turn out to also be the very strategic players of the NDC whilst in opposition. I mean, you can mention names. Are you in the situation? So some of what you see is political retaliation and not really just for vetting. The cameras. Not for the camera, political retaliation that you harassed us when we were in government. You took us through a lot. You made us suffer and ultimately you made us lose power. Now you are before us. We will deal with you. It's as simple as that. Because examine the questions. Very few of those questions had to even do with exactly what the person is going to the ministry to do. Are you getting the point? Very few were foreign policy related matters. Very few were really about, what is happening in terms of the communication policy and what policy reforms are you bringing to the table and etc. Very few really related to how better you can manage the finances of this country. A lot of it is a political attack informed by a perception by the other side that you contributed immensely to our losing power, and now you are before us for us to participate in approving you to be a minister. If we had our way, we'll block you. Basically, that's what it is. So that is the culture. I mean, we should move away to a culture of focusing on policy issues and etc. For us, on the majority side, truth be told, we are under pressure to meet timelines that we have given to Ghanaians. If you recall, President Mahama gave a timeline and said, by this time, I will form my government. Right. Are you getting the situation? So those of us sitting here have to facilitate and ensure that he meets the timelines. Because he's promised to the Ghanaians that I will finish forming government within this timeline. So we're looking at this, okay, there are 60 of them. So if he says he must, finish in 2 weeks and 3 weeks, how many must we do a day, okay, to enable him meet the timelines? And so if we decide that we're going to do 5 a day, how many hours per nominee, okay? So in non-controversial areas, we'll ask ourselves, do we ask him questions? Do we rather save the time? Because we know that when it comes to Abloka, they'll do 8 hours. So let's manage this person within 1 hour and then let him go so that when they are holding Abloka for 8 hours, we still are able to meet our timelines. So we are doing calculations because we are working towards a timeline. Now, people say, why are you allowing Afenyo? Why are you allowing minority? Why are they bullying you? You have all the numbers. Yes, it's still a question of timelines. Now, if we manage, let me add this. This is so important. Okay. If we manage the minority in such a way that on every nominee, they accept to approve by consensus, we don't waste time in the chamber. Because if they say we have to vote on that person, it means that we will spend at least 3 hours voting in the chamber as well. You know how we will win. After we will win. You get the point. We have the numbers. We will win. We will win on any nominee if they decide to vote. We will win. But like you mentioned, you never know who might cross to the other end. In their case, because of the fact that we're equal, the slimness of the margin, 1 or 2 could slip. But here where we have 188 and you are struggling with 88 and that kind of thing, even if you manage to convince 10 or 20 of our people, it still will make a difference. You get it. So we will win. No matter what, we'll win. But again, we're looking at timelines. So look, let's tolerate them. Let them do their drama, but then let them just approve by consensus. Let's take the person to the floor and let's not waste time and then have the person approve so that we can help the president to and then the party, because the president makes promises not just as John Dramani Mahama, but as NDC and NDC government. So any promise that he makes, we all are collectively bound by the promise. So if he says, I will set up government in 1 month, we must do whatever it takes for him to actually set up government in 1 month. He shouldn't, his numbers here shouldn't conduct themselves in such a way that they will frustrate being able to meet the timelines, especially when it really doesn't matter. As for the ministers, when they start working, you will see how we ourselves as a majority would hold our own ministers to the promises that together we made to the voters, based on which they gave us the numbers that they gave. I want to retain the numbers.
Right.
And retaining the numbers would depend on how the ministers conduct themselves, how hard they work to fulfill the promises made to Ghanaians, and how we are able, as a collective, both ministers and MPs, to satisfy Ghanaians. So we intend to hold our ministers accountable to all the commitments that we have made to Ghanaians. We won't blindly defend ministers. We won't blindly protect ministers. We will hold every minister to the standard of the manifesto promises made. And you must work towards achieving those manifesto promises. We won't wait for the minority, because minorities didn't make those promises. We made those promises. And we are sitting here as the parliamentarians of the people. And even though we voted the president to come into office, even though we also approved you, the ministers, but the constitution says that we should have oversight. And we will have oversight. We will hold every minister accountable.
Right. Now, let me ask you this question. You mentioned the fact that, I mean, the NDC administration, together with the president, are looking forward to make sure that, you know, time allocated to the nomination and vetting and passing out all over is actually met. Is it also intentional or a decision made by the NDC and the majority in caucus to make sure that, I mean, the chairman, Honorable Hiafo, don't really, you know, interfere so much with some of the questions and behaviors of some of the members on the parliament committee just to save their time? Because it looks like people are not really happy. Some members of the NDC are actually criticizing, you know, actions that have been exhibited by him on the committee.
That's why I said we need greater understanding of what is happening. Like I said, go and check the history, go and check the records of Parliament. There has never been such speed in the approval of ministerial nominees as we are seeing today. Never. Go and check the records. And so the chairman is doing very well. He is ensuring that the minority can engage in their drama as much as they want, but ultimately that we have the approvals that we need. And we help the president to keep to his timelines and for our party to look good, ultimately. As for the number of questions, I say that it has been the practice, to tell you the truth, that the leadership are not restricted in how much time they spend on asking nominees questions. That has been the practice. You can go and check when NDC was in the minority and, you know, whether there were specific rules that restricted the minority leader in terms of the amount of time that he will spend on asking questions. And I always tell people that, you know, a particular minority leader and his style may be unacceptable to you, but the rule should remain sacrosanct. Because you don't know when you will also be a minority leader.
Right.
So if you change the rules today because you don't like a particular minority leader, how about if you become a minority leader tomorrow? So, yes. And then also, I think that I have advised Afenyo, I said, look, I think that your style may not actually be helping you yourself. Yes, because you see, as a leader, you strive to be liked by all sides. You see,
you don't think it's liked by both sides?
Like you said, NDC people are putting pressure, they are upset, and etc. I think somebody like Haruna Idrisu, who was our minority leader, was equally liked by a lot of MPP people. Okay? I think Forson, who was our leader, was equally admired and liked by, you know, members of the MPP. Because people can tell when you are doing a good job from when you are just trying to frustrate a nominee without really having anything of substance against the nominee. When you are seen just pushing the nominee, hoping that the nominee will slip, okay, from when you actually have some evidence of wrongdoing by the nominee, and you are simply probing in such a way that you pin the nominee to the evidence that you have. And coming from a lawyer, it should be possible for you to do it in such a way that across board, everybody is happy with what you are doing. Because, like you said, people want us to really probe the nominees, check their level, their intellect, check their competencies, check their understanding of the issues that they are going to be dealing with. And so if you're questioning and you're probing, no matter how long it takes, is achieving these ends, the public will be happy. But I hardly see that in what the minority side is doing. And so I don't think that many people are that happy with the work that they have done. And that is what is fueling the pressure on the chairman. Why even tolerating that kind of thing?
Exactly. Why allowing him space?
Why you allow him so much space? But the rules say have as much space as you need as a leader. Are you getting the point? But then, as a leader, you have to understand that if you abuse the space, it affects your credibility as a leader as well. If you make good use of the space, it elevates your image as a leader as well. So it's a question of how you use the space. But I am not ready to cut down that rule simply because it is Afenyo Markin today. Because it can be Mahama Ayariga tomorrow. And I want to have that space. And I believe that I will make very good use of that space. I won't abuse it. And it will inure to my benefit as a politician and to my caucus, because at this stage, from opposition, you are trying very hard to now cultivate the Ghanaian public to come to your side to give an edge in the next election. So if you're not doing that well, really, you're not making the best use of the time. That's how I see it.